Yo, how you doing? Apologies about the delay. It's bloody hell, it's almost 12:15. Sorry I had the be right back screen going for like 10 minutes. I greatly apologize for that. The thing is, I had a couple of my PDFs ready for me to read from, but, somehow I lost them. Or they got corrupted, and I've been scrambling to try to re-download them, but some of them will not. So, yeah, that kind of throws a wrench into my plans. But it's okay. It's okay. So I currently still have two of them available. In terms of my third book, or my third story, I was gonna read. Unfortunately, that's I don't know what I'm gonna do for that. So I might have to improvise for that. So if y'all have any suggestions, I would greatly appreciate that. I'll do my best to find what I can. Again, apologies for the delay. But yeah, I should stop pussyfooting around. Okay, but hey, I hope y'all are doing well. Again, apologies for the delay. That's very unprofessional of me. But I have my tea. I had to brew that earlier. Hopefully it's not cold. Wait, let me check. Nope, still warm. Jolly good. Very good. But yeah, so if you can see by the title right here, our first story that we'll be reading tonight is The Room in the Tower. Now, this is a classic story by, E.F. Benson. I actually don't know much about it. It's an older story. I believe it's from the 1907, around that time. But it'll be a good read. I also have another story later on. It's a more modern one, well, relatively speaking, 2004, called The Dionia House. Heard good things about that, so I'll be nice to read that. And in terms of the fourth story I will read, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'm not sure if I will do a story in between the Dionia House or something else, but we'll see. We'll see. Probably something that's not too long. Again, apologies for the delay. Very unprofessional. But without further ado, let's get to it. Let's read the first one. The Room in the Tower, E.F. Benson. It is probable that everybody who it is probable that everybody who is at all a constant dreamer has had at least one experience of an event or a sequence of circumstance which has come to his mind in sleep, but subsequently realized in the material world. But, in my opinion, so far from this being a strange thing, it would be far odder if this fulfillment did not occasionally happen, since our dreams are, as a rule, concerned with people whom we know and places which we are familiar, such as might very naturally occur in the awake and daylight would. True, these dreams are often broken into by some absurd and fantastic incident which puts them out of court in regard to their subsequent fulfillment, but on the mere calculation of chances, it does not appear in the least unlikely that a dream imagined by anyone who dreams constantly should occasionally come true. Not long ago, for instance, I experienced such fulfillment of a dream which seems to me in no way remarkable and to have no kind of physical significance. The manner of it is as follows. A certain friend of mine, living abroad, is amiable enough to write me about once in a fortnight. Thus, when 14 days or thereabouts have elapsed since I have last heard from him, my mind, probably either consciously or subconsciously, is expectant of a letter from him. One night, last week, I dreamed as I was going upstairs to dress for dinner, I heard, as I often heard, the sound of a postman's knock on my front door, and diverted my direction downstairs instead. There, among other correspondence, was a letter from him. Thereafter, the fantastic entered. For on opening it, I found inside the ace of diamonds, and scribbled across it his well-known handwriting. I am sending you this for safe custody. As you know, it is running an unreasonable risk to keep aces in Italy. The next evening, I was just prepared to go upstairs to dress when I heard the postman's knock, and did precisely as I had done in my dream. There, among other letters, was one from my friend. Only it did not contain the ace of diamonds. Had it done so, I should have attached more weight to the matter, which, as it stands, seemed to me a perfectly ordinary coincidence. No doubt I consciously or subconsciously expected a letter from him, and this suggested to me my dream. Similarly, the fact that my friend had not written to me for a fortnight suggested to him that he should do so. But occasionally it is not so easy to find such an explanation, And for the following story, I can find no explanation at all. It came out of the dark, and into the dark it has gone again. All my life I have been a habitual dreamer. The nights are few. That is to say, when I do not find on awakening in the morning that some mental experience has been mine, and sometimes, all night long, apparently a series of the most dazzling adventures befall me. Almost without exception, these adventures are pleasant, though often merely trivial. It is of an exception that I am going to speak. It was when I was about 16 that a certain dream first came to me, and this is how it befell. It opened with my being set down at the door of a big red brick house, where, I understood, I was going to stay. The servant who opened the door told me that tea would be served in the garden and led me through a low, dark paneled hall, with a large open fireplace, onto a cheerful green lawn set round with flower beds. There were grouped about a small tea table, as in a small party of people, but they were all strangers to me, except one, who was a schoolfellow called Jack Stone, clearly the son of the house, and he introduced me to his mother and father and a couple of sisters. I was, I remember, somewhat astonished to find myself here, for the boy in question was scarcely known to me, and I rather disliked what I knew of him. Moreover, he had left school nearly a year before. The afternoon was very hot, and an intolerable oppression and an intolerable oppression reigned. On the far side, on the far side of the lawn ran a red brick wall and an iron gate in its center, outside which stood a walnut tree. We sat in the shadow of the house opposite a row of long windows, inside which I could see a table with cloth laid, glimmered with glass and silver. This garden in front of the house was very long, and at one end of it stood a tower of 3 stories, which looked to me to be much older than the rest of the building. Before long, Mrs. Stone, who, like the rest of the party, had sat in absolute silence, said to me, "Jack will show you to your room. I have given you the room in the tower." Quite unexpectedly, my heart sank at her words. I felt as if I had known I should have had the room in the tower, and that it contained something dreadful and significant. Jack instantly got up, and I understood that I had to follow him. In silence, we passed through the hall and mounted a great oak staircase with many corners and arrived at a small landing with 2 doors set in it. He pushed one of these doors open for me to enter, and without coming in himself, closed it after me. Then I knew that my conjecture had been right. There was something awful in the room, and with the terror of a nightmare growing swiftly and enveloping me, I awoke in a spasm of terror. Now, that dream or variations of it occurred to me intermediately for 15 years. Most often it came in exactly this form: the arrival, the tea laid out on the lawn, and the deadly silence succeeded by that one deadly sentence. The mounting with Jack Stone up to the room in the tower where the horror dwelt, and it always came to a close in the nightmare of terror at that which was in the room, though I never saw what exactly it was. At other times, I experienced variations on the same theme. Occasionally, for instance, we'd be sitting at the dinner in the dining room, into the windows of which I had looked on the first night when the dreams of this house visited me. But wherever we were, there was the same silence, the same sense of dreadful oppression and foreboding. And the silence I knew would always be broken by Mrs. Stone saying to me, "Jack will show you to your room. I have given you the room in the tower." Upon which, this was invariable, I had to follow home the oak staircase with its many corners and enter the place I had dreaded more and more each time that I visited it in sleep. Or again, I would find myself playing cards still in silence in a drawing room lit with immense chandeliers that gave a blinding illumination. What the game was, I have no idea. What I remember with a sense of miserable anticipation was that soon Mrs. Stone would get up to me and say, "Jack will show you to your room. I have given you the room in the tower." This drawing room where we played cards was next to the dining room, and, as I have said, was always brightly illuminated, whereas the rest of the house was full of dusk and shadows. And yet, How often, in spite of these bouquets of lights, have I not pored over the cards that were dealt to me, scarcely able to, for some reason, be able to see them? The designs, too, were strange. There were no red suits, but were all black, and among them there were certain cards with black all over. I hated and dreaded those. As this dream continued to recur, I got to know the greater part of the house. There was a smoking room beyond the drawing room. At the end of the passage was a green baize door. It was always very dark there, and as often as I went there, I passed somebody whom I could not see in the doorway coming out. Curious developments, too, took place in the characters that people in the dream as might have happened to a living person. Mrs. Stones, for instance, who, when I first saw her, had been black haired, became gray, and instead of rising briskly as she had done first when she said, "Jack will show you to your room, I have given you the room in the tower," got up feebly, as if the strength was leaving her limbs. Jack also grew up and became a rather ill looking young man with a brown mustache, while one of the sisters ceased to appear. I understood that she became married. Then it so happened that I was not visited by this dream for 6 months or so. I began to hope, in such an inexplicable dread did I hold it, that it had passed away for good. But one night after this interval, I again found myself being shown out onto the lawn for tea, and Mrs. Stone was not there, while the others were all dressed in black. At once I guessed the reason, and my heart leaped at the thought that perhaps this time I should not have to sleep in the room in the tower. And though we all usually sat in silence, on this occasion the sense of relief made me talk and laugh as if I had never done. But these matters were not altogether comfortable, for no one else spoke, but they all looked secretly at each other, and soon the foolish stream of my talk ran dry, and gradually an apprehension worse than anything I had previously known gained on me as the light slowly faded. Suddenly, a voice which I knew well broke the stillness, the voice of Mrs. Stone saying, "Jack will show you to your room. I have given you the room in the tower." It seemed to come from the gate in the red brick wall that bounded the lawn, and looking up, I saw that the grass outside was sown with thick gravestones. A curious grayish light shone from them, and I could read the lettering on the grave nearest me, and it was, "In evil memory of Julia Stone." And as usual, Jack got up, and again I followed him through the hall and up the staircase with its many corners. On this occasion, it was darker than usual, and when I passed into the room in the tower, I could only just see the furniture, the position of which was already familiar to me. Also, there was a dreadful odor of decay in the room. I woke screaming. The dream, with such variations and developments as I have mentioned, went on at intervals for 15 years. Sometimes I would dream it 2 or 3 nights in succession. Once, as I have said, there was an intermission of 6 months, but taking a reasonable average, I should say that I dreamed it as often as once in a month. It had, as in plain, something of a nightmare about it, since it always ended in the same appalling terror, which so far was from getting less, seemed to be apologies, seemed to me to gather fresh fear every time that I experienced it. There was, too, a strange and dreadful consistency about it. The characters in it, as I have mentioned, got regularly older. Death and marriage visited this silent family, and never in the dream, after Mrs. Stone had died, set eyes on her again. But it was always her voice that told me that the room in the tower was prepared for me, and whether we had tea out in the lawn or the scene was laid in one of the rooms overlooking it, I could always see her gravestone standing just outside the iron gate. It was the same, too, with the married daughter. Usually she was not present, but once or twice she returned again with company with man, whom I took to be her husband. He, too, like the rest of them, was always silent, but owing to the constant repetition of the dream, I had ceased to attach in my waking hours any significance to it. I never met Jack Stone again during all those years, nor did I ever see a house that resembled this dark house of my dream. Yet then something happened. I had been in London in this year up until the end of July, and during the first week in August went down to stay with a friend in a house he had taken for the summer months. In the Ashdown Forest district of Sussex, I left London early, for John Clinton was to meet me at the Forest Row station, and we were going to spend the day golfing and go to his house in the evening. He had he had his motor with him, and we set off about 5 in the afternoon. And after a thoroughly delightful day for the drive, and the distance being of some 10 miles, as it was still so early, we did not have tea at the clubhouse, but we waited till we should get home. As we drove, the weather, which up till then had been, though hot, deliciously fresh, seemed to me to alter in quality, and became very stagnant and oppressive. I felt that indefinable sense of ominous apprehension that I am accustomed to before thunder. John, however, did not share my views. Attributing my loss of lightness to the fact that I had lost both my matches, events proved, however, that I was right. Though I do not think that the thunderstorm that broke that night was the sole cause of my depression. Oh, excuse me. Let me get another sip of tea. Chamomile tea is nice at night. Highly recommend it. Probably is a bit strange of me to be drinking such a calming tea when I'm supposed to be reading scary stories, but I don't know. I enjoy these kind of this type of nights. I'm not one to get spooked easily. I mean, when it comes to literature, I don't get spooked easily. That's probably a better way for me to put it. Right then, now where was I? On way lay through deep high-baked lanes, and before we had gone very far, I fell asleep and was only awakened by the stopping of a motor. With the, all sorry, and with a sudden thrill, partly of fear but chiefly of curiosity, I found myself standing in the doorway of my house of dream. We went, I half wondering whether or not I was dreaming still, through a low oak paneled hall and onto the lawn where tea was laid in the shadow of a house. It was set in flower beds, a red brick wall, with a gate in it, bounded one side, and out beyond that was a space of rough grass with a walnut tree. The facade of the house was very long, and on one end stood a three-story tower, remarkably older than the rest. Here, for the moment, all resembled the repeated dream ceased. There was no silent and somehow terrible family, but a large assembly of exceedingly cheerful persons, all of whom were known to me, and in spite of the horror with which the dream itself had always filled me, I felt nothing of it now. The scene was what was sorry. The scene. I felt nothing of it now. Now that the scene of it was thus reproduced before me, but I felt intense curiosity as what was going to happen. Tea pursued its cheerful course, and before long, Mrs. Clinton got up. At that moment, I think I knew what she was going to say. She spoke to me, and what she said was, "Jack will show you to your room. I have given you the room in the tower." And that, for a half second, the horror of the dream took hold of me again. But it quickly passed, and again I felt nothing more than the most intense curiosity. It was not very long before I was amply satisfied. John turned to me. "Right up at the top of the house," he said, "but I think you'll be comfortable. We're absolutely full up. Would you like to go and see it now?" "By Jove, I believe that you are right, and that we are going to have a thunderstorm. How dark it has become." I got up and followed him. We passed through the hall and up the perfectly familiar staircase. Then he opened the door, and I went in. And at that moment, sheer, unreasoning terror again possessed me. I did not know what I feared. I simply feared. Then, like a sudden recollection when one remembers a name which has long escaped the memory, I knew what I feared. I feared Mrs. Stone, whose grave with the sinister inscription, "In Evil Memory," I had so often seen in my dream just beyond the lawn which lay below the window, And then once more the fear passed so completely that I wondered what was there to fear. I found myself sober and quiet and sane, in the room in the tower, the name of which I had so often heard in my dream, and the scene of which was oh so familiar. I looked around it with a sense of proprietorship, and found that nothing had been changed from the dreamy nights in which I knew it so well. Just to the left of the door was the bed, lengthwise against the wall, with the head of it in an angle. In a line with it was the fireplace and a small bookcase. Opposite the door, the outer wall was pierced by two lattice-paned windows, beyond which stood a dressing table. Well arranged along the fourth wall was the washing stand and a big cupboard. My luggage had already been unpacked, for the furniture of the dressing and undressedly lay orderly on the washstand and toilet table, while my dinner clothes were spread out in the coverlet of the bed. And then, with a sudden start of unexplained dismay, I saw that there were two rather conspicuous objects which I had not seen before in my dreams. One was a life-size oil painting of Mrs. Stone, and the other, a black and white sketch of Jack Stone, representing him as he had appeared to me only a week before in the last of the series of these repeated dreams. A rather secret and evil-looking man of about 30. His picture hung between the windows, looking straight across the room to the other portrait, which hung at the side of the bed. At that I looked next, and as I looked I felt once more the horror of the nightmare seize me. It represented Mrs. Stone as I had seen her last in my dreams, old and withered and white-haired. But, in spite of the evident feebleness of body, a dreadful exuberance and vitality shone through the envelope of flesh, an exuberance wholly malign, and a vitality that foamed and frothed with unimaginable evil. Evil beamed from the narrow, leering eyes. It laughed in a demon-like mouth. The whole face was instinct with some secret and appalling mirth. The hands clasped together on the knee seemed shaking with suppressed and nameless glee. Then I saw also that it was signed in the left-hand bottom corner, and wondered who the artist could be. I looked more closely and read the inscription, Julia Stone, by Julia Stone. Then came a tap at the door, and John Clinton entered. Got everything you want? He asked. Rather more than I want, said I, pointing to the picture. He laughed. Hard-featured old lady, he said. By herself, too. I remember. Anyhow, she can't have flattered herself much. But don't you see, said I, it's scarcely a human face at all. It's the face of some witch, of some devil. He looked at him more closely. Yes, it isn't very pleasant, he said. Scarcely a bedside manner, eh? Yes, I can imagine getting the nightmare if I went to sleep with that close to my bed. I'll have it taken down if you'd like. I really wish you would, I said. He rang the bell, and with the help of a servant, we detached the picture and carried it out onto the landing, and put it with its face to the wall. By Jove, the old lady is awake, said John, mopping his forehead. I wonder if she had something on her mind. The extraordinary weight of the picture had struck me too. I was about to reply when I caught sight of my own hand. There was blood on it, in considerable quantities, covering the whole palm. I've cut myself somehow, said I. John gave a little startled exclamation. Why, I have too, he said. Simultaneously, the footman took out his handkerchief and wiped his hands with it. I saw there was blood also on his handkerchief. John and I went back into the tower room and washed the blood off, but neither on his hand nor on mine was there the slightest trace of a scratch or cut. It seemed to me that, having ascertained this, we both, by a sort of tacit consent, did not allude to it again. Something in my case had dimly occurred to me that I did not wish to think about. It was but a conjecture, but I fancied that I knew the same thing had happened to him. The heat and oppression of the air, for the storm we had much expected was still discharged, increased very much after dinner, and for some time most of the party, among whom were John Clinton and myself, sat outside on the path bounding the lawn where we had the tea. The night was absolutely dark, with no twinkle of star or moon ray could penetrate the pale cloud of the overset of the sky. By degrees our assembly thinned. The women went up to the bed, men dispersed to the smoking or billiard room, and by 11 o'clock, my host and I were the only two left. All the evening I thought that he had something on his mind, and as soon as we were alone, he spoke. The man who helped us with the picture had blood on his hand too. Did you notice? He said. I asked him just now if he had cut himself, and he said he supposed he had, but he could find no mark of it. Now, where did the blood come from? By dint of telling myself that I was not going to think about it, I had succeeded in not doing so, and I did not want, especially just at bedtime, to be reminded of it. I don't know, said I, and I don't really care so long as the picture of Mrs. Stone is not by my bed. He got up. But it's odd, he said. Now you remember, now you'll see another odd thing. A dog of his, an Irish Terrier by breed, had come out of the house as we talked. The door behind us into the hall was open, and a bright oblong of light shone across the lawn to the iron gate which led on the rough grass outside, where the walnut tree stood. I saw that the dog had all his hackles up, bristling with rage and fright. His lips were curled back from his teeth as if he were ready to spring at something, and he was growling to himself. He took not the slightest notice of his master or me, but stiffly and intently walked across the grass to the iron gate. There he stood for a moment, looking through the bars and still growling. Then, of a sudden, his courage seemed to desert him. He gave one long howl and scuttled back to the house with a curious crouching sort of movement. He does that half a dozen times a day, said John. He sees something which he both hates and fears. I walked to the gate and looked over it. Something was moving on the grass outside, and soon a sound which I could not instantly identify came to my ears. Then I remembered what it was. It was the purring of a cat. I lit a match and saw the purr, a big blue Persian, walking round and round in a little circle just outside the gate, stepping high and ecstatically, with tail carried aloft like a banner. Its eyes were bright and shining, and every now and then it put its head down and sniffed the grass. I laughed. The end of that mystery, I am afraid, I said. Here's a large cat having a Walpurgis night out all alone. Ah, yes, that's Darius, said John. He spends half the day and all the night there. But that's not the end of the dog mystery, for Toby and he are the best of friends. But the beginning of the cat mystery, what's the cat doing there? And why is Darius pleased while Toby is terror-stricken? At that moment, I remembered the rather horrible detail of my dreams when I saw through the gate. Just where the cat was now, the white tombstone with the sinister inscription. But before I could answer, the rain began, as suddenly and as heavily as if a tap had been turned on, and simultaneously, the big cat squeezed through the bars of the gate and came leaping across the lawn to the house for shelter. Then it sat in the doorway, looking out eagerly into the dark. It spat and struck at John with its paw as he pushed it in order to close the door. Somehow, with the portrait of Julia Stone in the passage outside, the room in the tower had absolutely no alarm for me, and as I went to bed, feeling sleepy and heavy, I had nothing more than interest for the curious incident about our bleeding hands and the conduct of the cat and dog. The last thing I looked at before I put out my light was the square empty space by my bed where the portrait had been. Here the paper was of its original full tint of dark red. Over the rest of the walls it had faded. Then I blew out my candle and instantly fell asleep. Let me just get a little bit more tea before I continue. Lovely. Now, where was I? My awakening was equally instantaneous, and I sat bolt upright in bed under the impression that some bright light had been flashed across my face. Though it was now absolutely pitch dark, I knew exactly where I was. In the room which I had dreaded in dreams, but no horror that I ever felt when asleep approached the fear that now invaded and froze my brain. Immediately, after a peal of thunder crackled just above the house, but the probability that it was only a flash of lightning which awoke me gave no reassurance to my galloping heart. Somehow, I knew was in the room with me, and instinctively I put out my right hand, which was nearest the wall, to keep it away. And my hand touched the edge of a picture frame hanging close to me. I sprang out of bed, upsetting the small table that stood by it. I heard my watch, candle, and matches clatter onto the floor, but for a moment there was no need of light, for a blinding flash leaped out of the clouds and showed me that by my bed again hung the picture of Mrs. Stone, and instantly the room went into blackness again. But in that flash, I saw another thing also, namely, a figure that leaned over the end of my bed, watching me. It was dressed in some close clinging white garment, spotted and stained with mold, and was the face of that portrait. Overhead, the thunder cracked and roared, and when it ceased, the deadly stillness succeeded. I heard the rustle of movement coming nearer me, and, more horrible yet, perceived an odor of corruption and decay. And then a hand was laid on the side of my neck and close beside my ear. I heard a quick, taken, eager breathing. Yet I knew that this thing, though it could be perceived by touch, by smell, by ear and by ear, was not of this earth, but something that had passed out of the body and had power to make itself manifest. Then a voice, already familiar to me, spoke. I knew you would come to the room in the tower, it said. I have been long waiting for you. At last, you have come. Tonight, I shall feast. Before long, we will feast together. And the breathing came closer to me. I could feel it on my neck. At that terror, which I think had paralyzed me for the moment, gave way to the wild instinct of self-preservation. I hit wildly with both arms, kicking out the same moment, and heard a little animal squeal, and something soft dropped with a thud beside me. I took a couple steps forward, nearly tripping up over whatever it was that lay there, but by the merest good luck, found the handle of the door. In another second, I ran out on the landing and had banged the door behind me. Almost at the same moment, I heard a door open somewhere below. John Clinton, candle in hand, came running upstairs. What is it? He said. I sleep just below you, and I heard a noise as if. Good heavens, there's blood on your shoulder. I stood there, so he told me afterwards, swaying from side to side, white as a sheet, with the mark on my shoulder, as if a hand covered with blood had been laid there. It's in there, I said, pointing. She, you know, the portrait is up there too, hanging up on the place where we took it. At that, he laughed. My dear fellow, this is a mere nightmare, he said. He pushed by me, opening the door, I standing there simply inert with terror, unable to stop him, unable to move. What an awful smell, he said. Then there was silence. He had passed out of my sight behind the open door. Next moment, he came out again, as white as myself, and instantly shut it. Yes, the portrait's there, he said, and on the floor is a thing spotted with earth, like what they bury people in. Come away, quick, come away. How I got downstairs, I hardly know. An awful shuddering and nausea of the spirit, rather than of flesh, had seized me. and more than once he had to place my feet upon the stairs, while every now and then he cast glances of terror and apprehension up the stairs. But in time we came to his dressing room on the floor below, and there I had told him what I have here described. A sequel can be made short. Indeed, some of my readers have perhaps already guessed what it was, if they remember that inexplicable affair of the churchyard at Westphalia some 8 years ago, where an attempt was made 3 times to bury the body of a certain woman who had committed suicide. On each occasion, the coffin was found in course of a few days, again protruding from the ground. After the third attempt, in order that was, after the third attempt, in order that the thing should not be talked about, the body was buried elsewhere in an unconsecrated ground. Where it was buried was just outside the iron gate of the garden belonging to the house where this woman had lived. She had committed suicide in a room at the top of the tower in the house. Her name was Julia Stone. Subsequently, the body was again secretly dug up, and the coffin was found to be full of blood. The end. For an older story, that was quite effective. Very well done, I must say. E.F. Benson. Very well done, I must say. Very well done. Right, so that was our first story of this night. And it went a little bit longer than I thought, which is good for me. Very good for me. Let me get a little bit more tea. I'm starting to get low here. I might want to make some more. That's good tea. Ay, ay, ay. I hope y'all are doing well this evening, wherever you may be watching or listening. Actually, let me just check my Twitch profile, make sure it's doing alright. Sorry if my voice is a little bit more ragged than usual. I've had a long day. Quite the day, I must say, quite the day. Ay, 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 ay. Also, I got some British candy earlier. Where I'm working, we have a bunch of Brits staying right now. So, and I'm not sure who it was, but they decided to give us some candy from the UK, which I am actually quite grateful for. I've had candy in Australia, but not the UK. I believe this is like a Cadbury caramel. They had Cadbury caramels in Down Under in Australia, but I'm wondering if the UK version is different. That's pretty good. Ah, my jaw is slightly sore because I think a wisdom tooth is coming in. Yeah, it's coming in. I'm lucky. The 3 other wisdom teeth I have came in easily without needing surgery. So let's go 4 for 4 with that one, baby. All right. Bollocks. Sorry, I dropped the candy wrapper. Let me get that. There we go. Sorry about that. Let me just get some water as well. There we go. Okay. Let me get the second story ready here. Yes, I think I mentioned it earlier, but the next story we'll be reading is called The Diania House. Diania, something like that. So this is a story from 2004, and quite interestingly, the creator of it went on to become a screenwriter. I don't have the author's. Oh, sorry, here it is. It's Eric Heiser. Heiser. Sorry, apologies. Well, yeah, I've heard good things about this one, but again, I have not read this one either. So this will be a first experience for both of us. What's interesting is that this was originally a web page where it was updated periodically for about a month, which is pretty effective. And the story is probably good for you to read the story. This is almost like 20 years old, and yeah, this would make it its 20th anniversary. So hey, big ups to them. Let me just position that on my book here. Let's see. Do. Yeah, that should do. That'll do. That'll do. Right, so I'll just be reading out the dates as it were for each entry. Let's see. Yep, that'll do. So it says that the estimated reading length will be about 30 minutes, and I'm probably going to want to read more afterwards, so probably will have to improvise what I would like to do for my third story, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Perhaps I'll take an intermission to make some more tea. Not a bad idea. I wish I lived alone. I don't like living with roommates, man. Right, now where was I? Where am I? Alright. The Diania House by Eric Heisner. October 7th, 2004. Jennifer, friends, and family of Mark. As promised, here are the copies of the correspondence I received from Mark over the course of the last month. For the most part, I have merely copied and pasted them from my email application. As you will read, he requested this in hopes that you will better understand why he did what he did. Advertisements. I made this site because it's the most effective way to share Mark's emails with all of you. I'm not advertising this to anyone, but I do think it would be wise to pass this URL along to anyone who may be able to help with the investigation. As I collect more information from various sources, I'll update this site to keep an accurate record. I'll have that link at the end of the series as well. If you need to speak with me, Jen has my number. Thank you for your patience, and again, I am profoundly sorry, Eric, author of this of these how would I say compilation. 1 month previously, September 6th, 2004, from Mark Condry, date September 6th, Monday, 2004, 8:17 a.m. Subject: an old friend. Eric. Hey man, it's Mark from Houston. The Saturday Night Gang. Feels like a long, long time ago, doesn't it? I found your email from your website. Looks like you're out in LA. LA now. Cool, cool. I remember telling you you should be out there doing the California thing. You still with Connie? I'm in Dallas now. I met someone who works in my building and we've been seeing each other for about 2 years now. Listen, the reason I'm writing to you out of the blue is because I got this newspaper article in the mail. Maybe you got one too. It's about Andrew. You remember Drew. Travis would pick him up most of the time. You know, messy hair, sort of the fanboy type. I didn't remember his last name until I got this thing, and now it's really disturbing me. Do you know what happened, and did you hear about it already? Let me know if you have some time to talk. I can call you, or you can call me if that works better. I'm gonna see if I can track down Travis and Dave. A quick search didn't seem to turn up any leads, but maybe they just don't have websites. If you still talk to either of them, let me know. Thanks. Mark. September 8th, 2004. From Mark Condry. 7:44 a.m. Subject: Read. Old friend. Eric. Thanks for the quick reply. I didn't mean to sound so cryptic in my first email. I'm just reluctant, I guess. I hadn't really seen or thought about Andrew since he stopped showing up for game night, and that was like 5 years ago. That was about the time we all went our own ways back in 1999. You moved out west, I moved to Dallas, etc. So when I got this article in my mailbox, it caught me by surprise. And yeah, I'll transcribe the thing for you. I wasn't sure if maybe you were the one who sent it to me, and I'll put it into this email at the bottom. I remember him. He was never the kid with the idea. He was the kid who agreed with yours, slowest to get the joke usually, and laughed the longest. Yeah, that's Andrew in a nutshell. At least that's how I remember him. He got on my nerves sometimes, but damn if he didn't love being part of the gang. He'd ask me for some poker chips on card night or borrow dice from my bag, that sort of thing. Whenever we played Tecmo Bowl on your Nintendo, he always wanted to be on my team, which would have been fine if he was any good. I hadn't heard from Travis or Dave in years. They fell off. They fell off the radar about the same time you did. None of us made much of an attempt to stay in touch. It was just one of those things. That's okay. I wasn't trying to point fingers. It happens. But I was hoping you have already heard about Andrew, like you've gotten a copy of the article. I still haven't been able to get a number or email from Travis or Dave. Maybe they know about me. I'm sorry, maybe they know more about this than we do. Andrew usually hitched a ride with Travis most of the time. It was on the way home for Travis. Didn't Andrew live with his mom, like in an apartment, and his stepdad was a real estate broker? He had that one house way out past Highway 6. You remember that? Andrew was scared to death of that house. Anyway, here's the article. There's a photo of Andrew with it. Looks like he maybe his driver's license photo. He still had messy hair. Gunman shoots two. Kills self in Boise restaurant. Diners at the roadside breakfast cafe on Interstate 84 fled to the parking lot in a panic yesterday afternoon when a man entered them again shooting patrons inside, killing two. The couple, John and Lucy Matson, were having lunch when 26-year-old Andrew Hughes entered, wielding a Smith & Wesson .59 pistol, according to the police. Witnesses claim the perpetrator was muttering to himself as he approached the smoking section and opened fire into the first occupied booth, fatally wounding the Madisons. Soon after, he turned the weapon on himself. All three were taken by paramedics to St. Alphonse Regional Medical Center, where John Madison and the shooter were pronounced dead. Lucy Madison, 37, remained in critical condition for several hours but did not survive the night. Police are investigating Hughes' work and personal background, but as of this morning, the motive for the attack is currently unknown. If there's more to this article, I didn't get it. That's where it was torn off. The other side was part of Dillard's ad. This really bothers me, Eric. What the hell was Drew doing there in Boise? With a fucking gun? He hung out with us for almost 2 years. I just don't get it. And something else is eating at me, man. I just can't figure it out yet. Mark. September 9th, 2004, 2 p.m. From Mark Condry. Subject, Andrew. Hey, I know how you feel. It's hard not to think about the times he sat next to us at the table, smiling like a fool, rolling dice, and moving his pieces around the board. He loved Monopoly night, always wagging his tongue when he counted money. I don't think he realized he did that. It's impossible to think of him shooting up a diner. There's no return address on the envelope? No, but the postmark is Idaho, not California or Texas. Not sure you've already considered this, but it's possible. The whole thing is fake, some sick practical joke made to mess with your head. You can get newsprint paper for. Yeah, I've considered it. I didn't tell you this earlier, but I called out the St. Alphonse and asked if they had a patient named Andrew Hughes admitted in the last month. They hadn't a record of him. I asked if it would show if he was pronounced DOA, and I got transferred to ER, where they keep paramedic records and info on all of the DOAs. They have him listed. He showed up on August 28th, died of a gunshot wound to the head, and was pronounced dead by the ER resident at 3:14 p.m. I asked for some contact info, like a phone or address where he might have been living, and I got brushed off. Told to call the police for that stuff. The hospital wouldn't give out any personal info, at least not without some signatures. I haven't called the police yet. That's probably the next step. Glad to hear that you and Connie are going strong. Sorry to dump all of this on you. I just didn't know who else would care to listen. I'll write if anything else comes of this. At this point, I'm thinking maybe Drew's mom sent it to me. Maybe Drew kept track of me when I moved to Dallas and had my address. I'm listed in the book at all. I mean, that would explain the logistic part. I'm probably overthinking things. Take care, Mark. Take care, Mark. September 10th, 2004. 3:11 a.m. Subject, thoughts and concerns. Hey again, I know it's late or early depending on how you look at it, but this Andrew thing just won't go away. I finally realized what's eating at me and I need to spit it out. Do you remember what went on just before Andrew stopped showing up for game nights at your place? I do. He was gone for 2 weeks because he had to house sit for his father. Sorry, for his stepfather. Mom and stepdad went on a big vacation every summer for like 10 days, and Andrew was just expected to stay behind. He usually just stayed in his mom's apartment, but that year, he asked to mind the house his stepdad owned. The one out in the Old Rich subdivision west of Houston. Maybe the guy had a bunch of houses. He was big on real estate, wasn't he? The guy inherited the dog from one of his clients, somebody who moved out and didn't want to take the dog with them. I want to say it was an Australian Shepherd. Do you remember any of this? Andrew talked about it the weekend before. The dog had behavior problems. It whined, barked, scratched at the doors, pissed on the carpet, didn't want to be inside, always wanted to be outside. Dad kept it in a kennel except when it rained. Andrew was supposed to take care of the dog, plus a few other things like mow the lawn and that sort of crap. But Andrew didn't want to go. Dave got into that argument with him about how it was the perfect setup for a young bachelor. House all to yourself, party time, risky business, and Andrew kept saying it was too cold there for a party. Too cold. I distinctly remember that, and how he kept asking us to drive out and stay with him while he was house sitting. I don't think anyone went out there. Did they? I mean, I never did. We didn't see him for 2 Saturdays in a row. Then Travis picked him up like usual since he was back at his mom's place. That's the one night with Andrew I remember the most. I bet it's the same with you. It was the most bizarre and frustrating night I had with the group. Andrew walked in quoting some commercial verbatim. I want to say it was a tie dad. Travis told us he was like that. He was like that in the car all the way over. Commercials, shows, movies, radio songs. The first couple of hours gaming was like being in a room with the TV on. Then he started parroting at us. He just copied something we said. You remember? Tell me you remember this. I can't see it in my head. It's so clear. Oh, and what was his response to anyone's complaint? To anyone's complaints? Okay. Drew, stop quoting Law and Order episodes. Please give the pointed at it commercial a rest. Dude, shut the fuck up and roll your dice. Okay. And then he'd launch into something else for a few minutes later. It wasn't just that he would regurgitate that crap, it was that he could take it so far. Whole reams of dialogue that he'd somehow memorized from one throwaway TV episode. Lyrics to the entire songs. It went from odd to funny to disturbing in the first hour. Look, I'll come out and say it. Whatever happened in those 10 days, it changed him. He wasn't the same person after that. We all know this. We never talked about it, at least not with me around, but fuck if we didn't know instantly that the person who came back from that house wasn't Andrew. I wrote before that I hadn't thought about Andrew since '99. That was a lie. You know the way your brain sometimes reminds you of the things you did in the past that you hate? The ones that sour your stomach? I've thought about him a few times, about that night. Was that the start of his madness, or whatever it is that drove him to shoot up a diner? Were we there to see him first lose grip? Jesus, Eric, why the hell didn't we say anything? From Mark Condry, September 10th, Friday, 2004, 11:38 a.m. Subject: The door is open. Eric, I woke up to the phone ringing this morning. Turned out to be a reporter from the Idaho Statesman. She finally called me back. Did I tell you I called to track down the source for the article? She didn't have any new development on the story, but will continue to follow up with the police. I asked if she had any other details about the crime, stuff that didn't find its way into the article, and we sort of went over her notes. Most of it I already knew, but there was one piece of info that really caught my attention. She wrote in the article that Andrew was mumbling or muttering to himself when he entered the restaurant, but she didn't put it out what he was saying. According to the witness, he kept repeating, "The door is open." Does that make any sense to you? The door is open. Write me back. Mark. September 9, sorry, September 12th, 2004, 5:10 p.m. from Mark Condry. Subject, a plan. Eric, haven't heard anything from you. Just writing to let you know I've had a day to put some distance from the whole thing and I've made a decision. I'm gonna drive down to Houston and see if I can find someone in Andrew's family. I once rode with Travis to pick Drew up. I think I know where his mom used to live. From there, maybe I can find his stepdad and the house. I've tried the boys' elite already. I called the cops and got more questions than answers. And now some Lieutenant Perez plans to call me back in case he needs more testimony from me. Like I know anything. Apparently, Andrew was living alone in a rental up there, working on a blockbuster video. That's about all I got from the cops. In Idaho, so I'm aiming for Houston. Even driving my own car in a cheapo motel, it's still gonna cost me like $200 for the trip. Jenny is worried about me. She'd rather I stay and pretend the police will figure this all out on their own. But I gotta go down there, Eric. Here's why. I think Andrew was afraid of that house for a reason. Whatever the reason was, during those 10 nights, something emptied him, gutted Andrew like a fish. It yanked out whatever he was inside, shocked him into forgetting it all away. He was hollowed out. To fill the void, he absorbed any input he could find. Television, radio, conversation, soaked it up and presented it as Andrew. He could walk and talk, and he wasn't injured, not physically, but he wasn't the same either. There's a gap I need to fill, in my head, like the time in that house. I have these pieces of Andrew that don't match. I need something to match. Hell, I'll feel better if something will just make sense. I won't ask you to fly down and join me, but I could use your help all the same. I have some questions you might be able to answer. Please call or send me a note if you know any of these. My phone is removed by Eric. What was his stepfather's name, the first or last? What was his mom's name? What was her last name, also Hughes? What was the name of the subdivision where stepdad's house was? I think Andrew mentioned it. I hope I haven't freaked you out too much with my crazy talk. I know it probably comes off sounding absurd, some of it, or maybe not. You were there for some of this. If you really think I'm off my noggin, please tell me. By all means, tell me. I hope to hear from you soon. Mark. September 13th, 2004, 8:22 a.m. Subject, a plan. Eric, thanks again for calling. I got your email as well. It mentions a few things we didn't discuss over the phone, so I want to add a comment or two. What I remember was what Travis told us. The time he went to pick up Drew, he had to go up to his room to get him. That was the last time Drew gamed with us. Travis went upstairs to his room, and the kid was pacing back and forth in his by his bed. Everything was all neat and tucked in, but the carpet was worn in the line where Drew was pacing. It was like that was all he did. Yes, and I remember this too. And the way Travis told the story, like he wanted it to sound funny, but he didn't believe it was. And Dave laughed. He said, "Man, that dude's a broken record," and we all agreed, nodding and chuckling. Fuck. We all just let it go at that. Like it was easier just to write him off. But Travis was the last one to laugh. He'd seen that room with his own eyes. Go. I really would, but Connie got sick last night and she's still throwing up this morning. I don't feel right leaving town with her like this. Understandable. You stay there. I'll continue to email you on this thing. I can't really talk about Drew with Jenny. She never knew him. She doesn't get why this is so disturbing outside of the horror that took place in Boise. That's why I'll keep writing you. No one else gets it. Hey, maybe I'll somehow find Travis or Dave while I'm back in town. Mark. September 14th, 2004, 6:51 p.m. Subject, I made it. Eric. I made it to Houston. Drive was hell. Traffic and a persistent rattle in the trunk wore me down. The AC unit in my motel sounds like a submerged casino engine. It'll be hard for me to sleep with it on and impossible with it off. Well, at least the whole internet access bit works, and I'm able to check my email. Tomorrow is a long day. I'll be prowling Bracewood and your old neighborhood to zero in on an apartment complex I went to once. Joy. Wish me luck. Mark. September 15th, 2004. 9:06 p.m. Subject. Lots of stuff. Eric. Hey, great news. I have a solid lead. The whole day felt like I was pulling a string from a sand, but it's pointed me in the right direction. These emails are becoming more of a journal for me to help me log my progress. I hope you don't mind. It took me an hour of driving back and forth around Geyser and Bracewood areas before I zeroed in on the right side street. The landmarks had changed. I was 90% sure I'd found the right apartment complex, but I was still grasping air. With no name for Drew's mom and no guarantee her last name was Hughes, I went to the manager's office and I just got lucky. Her name is Nancy Hughes, and she stopped paying rent in the September of 1999. Drew paid for it with the rest of the lease term, which was ending the following February. According to the note in the resident file, he paid in cash. Seems mom moved out or just up and left one day. Just poof. Andrew was living alone in the apartment then. How was he paying for rent with just a minimum wage job? I showed the manager the article about Andrew and then I lied. I said I was a private investigator. I don't know why. Maybe to justify why I was having her dig up rental information from 5 years ago. Anyway, she got off on it and kept rooting around in Hughes' files for me, like I was they were a movie sidekick. She found something, a third-party check, covered the rent of 1998. Kurt Malone. I'm thinking this is the stepdad. The manager photocopied the check for me, and 10 minutes later, I was calling the phone number printed with Kurt's address in the upper left-hand corner. No luck there, it disconnected. So I took another approach and called 411 for the local realtor service. You can do a search for contact information for a specific realtor. I remember hearing about this from a coworker who sold his place in Greatwood. Malone was listed under a little Remax affiliate office in Katy. I got the number and called there and left a message. Evelyn, the owner, called me back and said Malone hadn't worked there in forever. He up and vanished, left her with all kinds of issues. She thinks he had financial problems and bailed for Mexico. I find it hard to swallow a theory. I find it hard to swallow a theory told to me in a stage whisper, but maybe that was just her personality. Still, there's two people gone. Before I thought maybe mom just moved in with stepdad. Now I don't know what the hell to think. Apologies. The call went on for half an hour as I got to hear the HR nightmare Evelyn went through thanks to Kurt's disappearance. Halting his benefits, freezing the 401k plan, surrendering the documents to the police, etc. I finally broke in and asked about the house, the one in West Houston he owned. She got very quiet after that. It took me another 10 minutes to answer her questions about who I was. This time I was honest and upfront with her. I guess it paid off because she believed me, or at least believed my intentions, and she checked her records. I have an address, Eric. Kurt had his own home in Sugarland, but get this. He was renting a house from a client way out west near Pecan Grove's plantation. The paperwork was curious, since he was supposed to be selling this place, but the previous owner had signed off on it. Multiple places, like it was no real conflict of interest. She didn't know what happened to the house after it was seized by the bank. Guess I'll have to find out tomorrow when I drive out there. I'm close, man. I'm real close. Let me just get a little bit more water. Bollocks, my phone's starting to run low on power. Maybe we'll have this be the last story of the night. I am actually getting pretty tired myself. I think I want to get some sleep after this. Yeah, I think this worked out. I'll just do the 2 stories for tonight. Apologies if you were hoping I'd do 3, but yeah, I'm starting to feel pretty tired. And I got work tomorrow as well, so apologies. September 16th, 2004. Note, Mark was able to send text messages from his phone, but I frequently received them later, sometimes hours after he sent them, as is the case with the September 21st messages. From removed messaging sprintpcs.com. Time 3:33 p.m. No subject. Where are you? Call me. From Mark. 8:25 p.m. Subject. The house. Holy fuck. I tried calling you 5 times today, but I got your machine. I really need to talk. Call me as soon as you can. Where do I start? The house is still there. It's this generic one-story thing. Bricks and siding. It must have been built at the same time as the other homes in the neighborhood, but it just looks older. The roof is scarred in places. The driveway hasn't held up like the others have. Cracks in the pavement, a plank is missing from the side gate. I rang the doorbell and figured I could just talk to the new owners. No one answered. I couldn't really hear if it worked or not. Blinds and curtains in the windows kept me from peering inside. There is a dusty pickup truck with a warped front fender parked in the driveway. The neighbor across from me saw me checking it out. He talked to me for a while as he watered his shrubs. He hadn't met the person who lives in the house now, or if anyone has been living there recently, really. He remembered Kurt, but not by name, just as the guy who stayed there for a few months. The previous owners, Kurt's clients, didn't live there much longer. They had all sorts of problems with the house. Electrical, heating, that sort of thing. They moved out, left most of their furniture behind, he said, packed into a big RV one day, and just drove off. He still remembered their names. John and Lucy Madsen. September 18th, 2004, 7:59 a.m. Subject. Re-update. Hey Eric, we're playing phone tag. When you called, I was already on the plane, and when I called back, I guess you were at the hospital again. Really sorry to hear about Connie. Any idea what it is yet? Food poisoning? Something else? What are the doctors saying? I'm in Boise now. Yeah, I nabbed a chicken on short notice and got on standby. I left my car at the George Bush Airport in Houston. Jen freaked out when I told her. Then she got very tears, said I should do what will make me happy, and hung up. What will make me happy? Christ. I don't know a soul in Idaho. I haven't slept in 2 days. I'm charging everything to my Visa. I have no idea how I'm going to pay it off. My watch stopped working yesterday, and I got this weird ringing in my right ear. It comes and goes. It's annoying as hell. I'll tell you what will make me happy. Closing my eyes and not seeing Andrew stare back at me. What are you going to do when you get there? Do you plan on telling the police the Madison connection? Do you think Madison's left something in that house that drove Drew nuts and he killed them for it years later? Seriously, this is fucked up. Yeah, I don't know what to think. Right now it's just a connection. They lived in the same house. The Madisons were there for 4.5 months and Drew was there for 10 days. I have no idea what it means. I'll email you when I figure something out. I feel like this should have passed. You should pass this along to some people, like to get you some help out there, or bring in the feds or something. I don't know if anyone else has managed to make the connection you did. It's an important one to the case. Can I forward your emails and contact info to someone else? I've been thinking about that because I was going to ask you to do that for me at first, but now I don't think I'll get the kind of help I need. Let's face it, I'm gonna get 2 times of interest, except when I get this vision in my head of some guy calling Jenny, my parents, calling my boss at work, looking to paint the picture of a guy who's lost his mind and hearing that his dead friend went nuts. I really haven't been totally honest with Jenny or my supervisor at the office because this is not something you can easily explain. I've been calling in sick to work. I told Jen I had to go to Boise to attend some pseudo wake. I don't want that to bite me in the ass while I'm looking into Andrew's past. Here's what you can do for me though. You can hold on to this stuff as evidence or whatever. If something crazy happens and I'm in trouble, use this to explain the situation for me. Forward emails to my friends or family. Maybe if they read them, they'll understand what I'm going through. I know you didn't mean to inherit this job, and I'm sorry to make you do it, but I really appreciate your help. Mark, in Potato Land. September 20th, 2004, 10:13 a.m. Subject, new lead. Update. I called the hospital, the one where Andrew was taken back in August. I asked some pointed questions about where Andrew's body was taken. Who picked it up? Did a relative or friend show up? The answer was no, but he was tagged with John and Lucy. I kept demanding some sort of lead, so the intern gave me the names of the relatives who were called to confirm the ideas of the Madsons and arrange for funeral home delivery. John's cousin lives out here, and I'm about to head out and meet Greg Archer, the cousin, and his wife. I'll write again from the hotel. For Mark. September 20th, 2004, 10:40 p.m. Subject, the Archers. I'm back. That was strange. I met the Archers. I know what you said last time I called, how I need to stop lying because it'll make it harder on me later. But I wasn't about to tell them I'm a good friend of the guy who killed Greg's cousin. I said I knew the Madsons when they were in Houston. I had some burning questions about what happened to them, as I claimed they practically dropped off the map when they left town. I hadn't heard from them since. Greg did most of the talking. His wife Helene was pleasant in the stiff smile way, but she found ways to interrupt my chat with Greg and remind him of other things that he needed to get done. The more she did it, the more I encouraged Greg to keep chatting. The Madsons, as he tells it, had a long future planned in Houston. John got a transfer to Schlemmer Oil and he looked forward to settling down. Then things started to go wrong after they moved in. Just little things that piled up. The car kept getting flat tires. Lucy broke her ring finger while food the dishwasher. Trouble getting mail. Their phone got disconnected when they didn't pay the bill for 2 months. A bill they never got. That sort of thing. Finally, something happened. Greg doesn't know what it was enough to get them to put the house on the market. That same week, John sold all his company stock, gutted his 401k, quit his job, and put everything into a big RV. He and Lucy drove off in their new motorhome and never looked back. They'd been driving around the country the last 5 years, nomadic. Lucy got pregnant in 2002, but it was a miscarriage. They still kept driving on the road. Greg thinks they would have just kept driving through Idaho if the RV hadn't broken down with AC problem. Greg said John called him up out of the blue and asked if he and Lucy could stay over. Greg had made a guest room upstairs, and he and Helen welcomed them as their guests for a week. That was right before the shooting. Here's where it gets stranger. Greg took me up to the guest room and pointed to some spots on the carpet. Right in front of the closet door, furniture footprints, like something had stood there. Greg said it was the dresser, the one on the opposite wall. They barricaded the closet door for the duration of their stay. It was the strangest thing. He also noticed they kept the bedroom light on around the clock, and bundled up with a spare set of woolen blankets for the bed. Greg never found out right away to ask a number of questions, as I think he felt it was a little better talking to me about it. I'm not his cousin, but I'm someone who listened to him and agreed that it was bizarre. I left Greg and Helen's not feeling any better. I felt worse now. I ache the way you're sore right before you get really sick. I'm trying to put things together. I really am. I have to go to the police now, don't I? I'll go first thing in the morning. I promise, Eric. Give me 1 second. I need to plug in my phone. It's starting to get low power. Let me just grab my portable charger. Be right back. 1 second. There we go. Sorry about that. Alright, plugged in now, so we're good to go. September 21st, 2004, 2:21 a.m. No subject. Hey, I just saw this thing on Discovery Channel. Probably a rerun, I bet you can catch it sometime. All about natural predators and stuff. Wild things. Yeah, I'm up watching TV since I can't sleep. Anyway, there's this thing on the Venus flytrap talking about how it lures the curious insect to its lips, and then these invisible hairs or something sense when one of those suckers lands on it, and wham, swallows the bug. Just like that. Later on, it spits out the skeleton of the fly and waits for the next victim. Some type of flytrap plants emit this odor to entice more food. Says the voice on the TV. The fancy name for them is muscipula, or muscipula. I'm sorry, I'm not good with etymology names. So I wonder if that's all this is. The whole thing with the shooting and the anonymous article and the Houston and the footprints on the carpet, it's all to get me into the Venus flytrap. Only the scent isn't sweet slap, it's guilt. Guilt over all those times that I went around Drew and or I was around Drew and didn't do anything. You know what I mean? I'm flying all over the fucking country and my head is buzzing and I think I'm getting close to the truth, but really I'm tickling some invisible hair and the ground is about to fold up on me and swallow me down into a place where Nancy Hughes and Ken Malone went. I'm gonna go take some sleeping pills. I hope Connie is going better, man. I miss Jen. And she has a way of making me feel like I'm home just by being around her. I'm tired of these motels. I'm sorry, Eric. I'm so sorry. September 21st, 2004, 12:15 p.m. Subject: where Andrew stayed. Eric. Bingo. I went to the police and asked to talk to Lieutenant Perez. Instead, I got Detective Skoloff. He said he was working the Hughes case now, and I'm more inclined to think he was just running interface for Perez in case I was a wacko. Anyway, I told him about the Madsen connection with Andrew to see if it would help. They said that they'd look into it. Then he started with some questions about me, and I looked for a way to cut the chat short. Police stations make me uncomfortable. The rest of the talk was rather banal, but at the end of it, almost offhandedly, he asked if I wanted to sign for Andrew's personal effects, since they had copies of it all for important stuff. I said sure, even though it made me feel like they've already written off the case. Drew's been busy the last 4 years. He's had driver's licenses for Kansas, Colorado, Arizona, California, and Idaho. Looks like he stayed at friends' houses because none of these addresses printed on the license have apartment numbers. His Idaho license is just 2 months old and has the address of the rental home where he stayed. I'm gonna drop by this afternoon and see what happened to the things there. Maybe there's a clue on how he knew to find the Madisons, or why he shot them. Perez or somebody has done this already, I'm certain, but I'm not sure he looked very far. Wish me luck. Text message, 4:14 p.m., September 21st. Subject, none. Standing in front of house now. It's the same one. The Houston house, same marks on roof, same fence damage. 422. Just talked to old man across street. He says house has been here for years. Rented out as far back as he can remember. 4:25 p.m. I rang the doorbell. No answer. It's exactly the same, Eric. I don't understand. 4:29 p.m. Ears ringing again. I don't know what to do. How is it the same? 4:33 p.m. There's a way into the house. Here. 4:33 p.m. Where are you? Pick up the phone. 4:38 p.m. I'm going inside. 4:41 p.m. Inside the house. Nobody is here. Air is cold. Metal smell. 4:41 p.m. I found stairs. Going up. Didn't see second story from street. 4:47 p.m. Did you call? Signal cuts off. 3 bars, then no bars. I'm looking for more of Drew's stuff here. Layout is really bizarre. Lots of rooms. 4:47 p.m. Door end of hall. Made of metal. Checking other rooms instead. 5:05 p.m. Call. 5:09 p.m. Found something. Drew's backpack. Getting out of here now. 5:11 p.m. I think someone's here. I just heard something. 5:77 p.m. The door is open. September 27th, 2004, 1:18 p.m. Subject for Thursday. Hello, Eric. This is Jennifer. I'm on marked PC now. I did like you suggested, and I've looked through his outbox, and I don't see any emails about this to anyone else. There aren't that many, really. He didn't tell me a lot of this stuff, Eric. Like, now I'm reading this last thing he sent back to you on the 13th. I didn't know he was so emotional. Why didn't he tell me about this? But anyway, like you said, he wrote to you from his laptop when he was in Houston and Boise. And the police up there said said that they found that in his hotel room. They're taking their own sweet time checking it out for clues. So, yeah, I will keep asking for that to be sent down. Where else should I look? I don't know what else to do, except, well, wait here until you come down to look at it. He does have AIM, but I can't tell whether the chat logs would be saved or anything if he's done that. Please let me know what else I can do. You know more about what he was up to than anyone else because of this old friend the two of you had who went crazy, and now Mark is missing for almost a week. Please send me the other emails he sent you. Please, I want to know now. Jen. October 1st, 2004. From Postmaster. 1:30 p.m. Subject. Undelivered mail. Unknown user. X. RCPT 2 generated following response. 550. Unknown user. Original message follows. From x@x.x. Date. February October 1st, 2004. 12:47 p.m. No subject. Human arm and leg bones found on street. Scottsdale residents got a shock at the start of their morning commute when they found what seems to be human bones lying on the road on Sade Drive. Crime scene technicians arrived within half an hour and began to sweep the scene for more evidence that might help identify this human victim or at least establish an approximate time of death. Police spokesman Daniel Swift said bone evidence alone usually isn't enough to determine identity or even cause of death. These remains didn't just appear in the road, they were moved here, Swift said. Therefore, we're asking any witnesses to contact the police with information that might pertain to what happened. No other evidence was found along Sade Street or in yards of neighboring homes. More on the story as it develops. Whoever you are, whatever you are, fuck you. I may not know you, but I can tell what this is, and I'm not fooled. Your Venus fly-game trap won't work. I'll make damn sure to warn Jenny and the others too. It's a nice try, but no one is gonna fall for your bait this time. It stops here. Updates. It has become painfully obvious that, although I want this to end for all of us to have closure regarding Mark's disappearances, the trail he left has raised too many unanswered questions. Since the time I first published this site for Jen and those close to Mark, new information continues to arrive from a variety of sources. In my last posted email, I refused to take the bait. I said it would stop here, but it doesn't stop there. Not by any stretch. This page will chronicle my findings and any other resources as I discover them. Some may have no connection to how or why Mark vanished. Only time will tell. A final note. For those of you like Sandra and Nathan Condry, the truth is, I don't know yet. I don't yet know what to believe with this whole thing. But I know what I don't want to believe. October 14th, 2004. Jen called. She spoke with Boise police again yesterday. They have finally agreed to ship down the laptop. When she gets it and looks at it herself, so she'll send it my way. If I find anything new, I'll add it here. October 17th, 2004. Among the spam today, I received this email from someone who seems to have stumbled upon this site. From Mr. Paranoia. Subject, the house. Very interesting. If it's real, I have some information for you. I don't know Mark, but that won't matter once I've sent you this link. Based on what I've researched, those who have figured out what this flytrap house is risk becoming its next victim. Not everyone is eaten by it or them. Maybe. Some may just not be psychologically susceptible to it. The way some aren't able to be hypnotized. But if you walk away knowing too much about it, the house will get you. Sooner or later, witness the Madisons. Maybe you don't want to know anything else. Well, regardless on how I feel about it, this site isn't for me. So, in case you read it here first, send me what you have and I'll decide if I want to share it, Mr. Paranoia. Also, don't expect me to publish your message to me ever again. I'm not a PR firm. October 22nd, 2004. After trading emails several times with Mr. Paranoia, he finally sent me the link mentioned in the October 17th email. Jen, I've read it already, and I want you to treat it as a hoax. Unless you get something in the mail from a grocery store in Arizona. Call me when you've read it and we'll talk. It's a live journal site, which means to read it chronologically, you need to scroll to the bottom of the page and work your way up. The journal author is allegedly a 16-year-old named Daniel Steffens. Here's the link. Well, I guess we gotta click that link then. Let's see where this leads me. Okay, it's not that long. Alright then. October 11th, 2004. New job. Hi everybody, especially Jonathan. Here we go. It's Danny's first LJ. Well, took me long enough and I just need to find a reason for one. My life is pretty boring for the most part, so trying to keep a diary going to feel like too much work. But whenever I get a job, like over the summer, I always have these great stories to tell. Like when I worked as a lifeguard at the YMCA outdoor pool or at the public library last year. You wouldn't think you'd meet so many weirdo people or end up on crazy adventures, like raccoon hunting with the drain net, but it happens all the time to me. Well, this time, I'll be sure to write them down here, because of the new job. That's right, all part of Danny's genius plan to pay for Christmas. I want to get my friends and family's nice thing this year, so I took a babysitting job at a house 3 blocks away. Babysitting, yeah. Doesn't sound like a steady job, but this one is different. The Ellisons are both full-time working parents, programmers at some tech company downtown. When big deadlines get close, both of them have to work hella bad overtime hours, and they need someone to watch their daughter from around like 5 to 10 through Monday through Thursday. That seriously cuts into my downtime after school, but it's worth it. I just keep telling myself that. I went over tonight and met Lindy and Mr. Ellison. They look like total geeks. The living room has a big screen TV along with 2 big PCs and a bunch of other gear like DVD burners. The place is cold. They must run an AC a lot to keep their hardware from overheating. It's like that in the school computer room all the time. Lindy is 8. She's quiet and shy, but she has a crooked teeth smile. She likes Nintendo and Barbie. I think we'll get along just fine. First day's tomorrow. So weird having someone's house key on my keyring. Guess my references were good enough, though. Wish me luck. Danny. October 12th, 10:55. First night. Whew, I'm back. First night babysitting was pretty easy. I got there a little before 5 and met Kathy. She's the one who takes Lenny home from school. She has a boy who goes there too. She knew Mr. and Mrs. Ellison when they lived in Chicago and helped them find a place here. She was in a hurry, I guess, but she seems kind of rude. She told me, be on time so I don't have to wait for you. I was on time. I was early. Lenny was very quiet, but she doesn't know me, and that's okay. We played some Nintendo, and after dinner, she wanted to play house. She had a dollhouse in her room. It's really cute. I grabbed the Barbie doll and started to play with her, but she told me Barbie wasn't the right size for the house. It's true too. Barbie's just too tall. See what long legs get you sometimes. Lenny doesn't have any dolls for the house. She said she doesn't need any because it's just a house, but I think she secretly wants some. If we get along, I might add that to my Christmas project. I gotta remember to take a jacket with me next time, though. It gets way cold, and I didn't find the thermostat. I was gonna say something when Lenny's mom and dad came home, but when they showed up, they just looked so tired. I don't know how they work such crazy hours. I just got my money and told them I'd be there tomorrow. That was it. Pretty uneventful day. Off to bed. Danny. October 13th. Bizarre. Tonight was pretty bizarre. Lenny spent most of her time in her room playing quietly, which is okay for me because I had to finish my armor history paper. I made her soup for dinner and checked on her from time to time. But when I got close to her bedtime, I heard her talking to someone. So I went back to see if she would call in for me or just chatting with her dolls. She isn't supposed to be on the phone. She was moving furniture around in her little house, just talking to herself. I think she was repeating some stuff she heard over somewhere, maybe even in the house. You know how sometimes kids say stuff they don't realize could get their parents in trouble? I think Lenny was whispering, "Come on, Rick. Answer the phone," and the door. Is Mrs. Ellison seeing a Rick on the side? When I tucked Lenny in bed, I asked her what she was saying before, and she just shrugged and said it was stuff she heard. When I heard where she heard them, she said, "Around. We'll see if the plot thinks it's tomorrow night." Off to bed now. Current mood. Confused. October 14th, 11:02 p.m. Crooked. OMG, Lenny is such a strange little girl. Last night it was weird phrases. Tonight it was rhyme or some children's songs. Something about a crooked man with 6 pants. I don't know. I mean, she can be cute and smiles a lot, but sometimes I wonder if she doesn't get enough attention from her parents. Well, duh, otherwise I wouldn't have this job. She wanted to go to bed early tonight. I tucked her in and she hugged me and kept her arms around me for so long. She's definitely getting a Christmas present from me, even if I'm not her sitter by then. I told her a story to put her to sleep about a family of bears in a big house. I was using her dollhouse as the one where the bears lived. You know, just some improvising. So I was looking over it and she saw she had a colored room upstairs in red. Marked it all up in magic marker. I asked her what that room was and she just said, "The one upstairs." "Why is it red?" Lenny just shrugged like she didn't know. "What's it for?" "It smells like cookies and candy." See what I mean? Strange, strange, strange. No idea what that's about. Oh, I almost forgot. On my way back to the living room, I found a set of keys on the floor in the hall, just lying there. I was like, what the fuck? These weren't mine, and the house keys didn't work on the doors for the house. I don't know how I missed them before. I think they belong to the Rick. Anyway, they have one of those grocery store keychain cards on them, so I took them. Maybe I should have handed them over to Mr. and Mrs. Olsen, but what if I'm right and the mom is having an affair and these are the keys to her boyfriend's place? I don't want to get anyone in trouble. This weekend I'm going to go to the store and have them scan the little key card for me to see who it is. I'll be a good Samaritan and nosy at the same time. John's little brother snacks at one on Camelback, I think. What a week. Finally, I get a weekend to myself, though. I'll write if I find any more thing juicy about the keys. Danny. October 16th, 11:10 a.m. Keys. Well, that was a letdown. Okay, so I went and had the keychain card scanned at the fries, which worked even though they were for another place, cause it's all part of a big chain of stores. Keys don't even belong to anyone named Rick after all. The guy told me they're for someone named Mark Hondry, I think it was. He lives in Texas. Oh, bloody hell. I didn't get them back either. Policy to have the store mail them back. Whatever. Still makes me wonder what in the world they were doing in Mr. and Mrs. Ellison's hall. Lol. Listen to me like I'm Nancy Drew. Okay, off to the mall. John is waiting. Hee 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 hee. Oh, bloody hell. What the hell happened to Mark? Back on the job. October 18th, 2004. 10:31 p.m. What a weekend. Let's see. I hung out with John, saw the puppet movie by those South Park guys, and went lipstick shopping because I read this article about how lipstick is undervalued now. Like people don't wear it as often, and I love lipstick. Blah 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 blah. Girls. But yeah, Team America, great movie. Everyone has AIDS, AIDS. All right, tonight was pretty boring. Lenny was her usual quiet self, and we spent most of the night watching TV. We watched Aladdin twice, and by the time it was bedtime, the house wasn't as cold this time, or maybe it wasn't as bad since I brought a jacket and just kept it on. Oh, I burned dinner. That was frustrating because I know I set it for the right time. So I made his peanut butter and jelly sandwiches instead. I'm such a mom. No joking about that. Teehee, teehee, teehee. I gotta tell ya, there's one weird part when I was cleaning up in the kitchen after putting Lane to bed. I heard what sounded like somebody barreling down the stairs. Only, there are no stairs in the Ellison's house. I think it was just the TV or maybe the garage door. Just sounds like that because Ellison's came in a few minutes later. Boy, do they look tired. They could use a couple of Danny's special peanut butter and jellies themselves. I don't know if I should mention finding the keys that belong to that Mark guy or not. Anyway, I'm off to bed. October 19th, 2004, 10:58 a.m. Sorry, p.m. 10:48 p.m. Why am I doing this again? Ugh, I don't feel good. I've had this headache for half the night, just pounding on the back of my eyes. I've taken like 4 Advil already and it won't go away. Babysitting was such a nightmare. I had 2 papers to write, plus literature homework, plus Tuesdays are workout days for me, but I got up late and couldn't work out in the morning, so I sort of squeezed in a quick 20-minute session after school. OMG, Lenny just kept singing that stupid rhyme all night. It drove me nuts. I swear if I hear it one more time, I'll snap. It's such a hard time with everything tonight. The house got really cold at one point. And my ear ring. You know that high-pitched sound like they used to test for emergency broadcast system? Yeah, my ear was doing that. I thought it was the computers at first. Did I tell you about the PCs in the living room? Anyway, they're always on. I went over and checked them out. The table is like a spaghetti bowl of cables leading off behind the furniture or into the walls. Turns out it's not them. The ringing was in my ears. But the Ellisons had this sort of monitor program going. All these numbers were scrolling like mad in a window. The program wasn't anything I recognized, but the file name was TMP test underscore addict. I didn't want to get in trouble, so I didn't touch them. It got warm in the hall, and Lenny and I stayed there for a while. It also smelled good in there, like a bakery. I think the vents might be messed up in this house. Seriously, I don't know how anyone could live like that all the time. I want to quit, but I don't want to hurt Lenny's feelings. Maybe we should just suck it up. There goes that ringing again. October 20th, 2004, 11:31 p.m. Home finally. It's taken me this long to feel good enough to type. I got home over an hour ago. If last night was awful, tonight was 100 times worse. I don't know where to start. I got there at 5. Waved bye to Kathy, played with Lenny some. TV was acting up, so we had dinner early. I made some raviolis with pasta sauce and it was good, but when I was taking Lenny's plate, I thought I felt something touch me and I thought I felt something touch me and it made me jump. The bowl was put on Lenny's shoulder. She had pasta sauce in her hair. She asked for a bath, which was fine, but I had not given her a bath before. I was a little uncomfortable just because I wasn't familiar with the temp settings in the tub, and I didn't know how Lenny's mom and dad would feel about it. But Lenny kept pleading with me to stay with her for the bath, so I ran the water and helped her into the tub. This string came out of the faucet as the tub filled up. It made Lenny nervous, and I tried to tug it on it and pull it all the way out, but it must have been caught on something in the pipes. It just dangled from the faucet and floated on the water. Some of the pasta sauce had gotten into Lenny's hair, so I rinsed it out a little. There wasn't any soap in the guest bath, so I went into Ellison's bedroom and borrowed some from the master bath. That's when I heard Lenny started screaming. I have never been so chilled to the bone before hearing her tonight. It was horrible. Hearing her scream, I turned back and ran back to her as fast as I could. When I got back, she was hanging onto the edge of the tub trying to get out, and the string was wrapped around her leg. I yanked and yanked again, but it wouldn't budge, and Lenny kept screaming, "Get it off! Get it off!" So I started to try to unwind it from her leg, but the shampoo in the water or something had made it slippery, and I started crying, and suddenly the string went slack, and I tore Lenny away. She had a set of marks on her like stripes, where the string had cut into her skin. Later I went back with a pair of scissors when so sorry. Later I went back with a pair of scissors, and the string was gone, and the water had drained away. We spent the rest of the night in the living room on the couch, piled under two blankets and pillows from Ellison's bed. Lenny eventually fell asleep, but I was so worried about her and confused about what happened. I was a nervous wreck. Around 9 p.m., one of the PCs started beeping like crazy. I got up to check on it. An alert had popped up. It said, like that, then the power cut out and back on again. Only some of the lights didn't come on, just a light from down the hall. In the hall, it was easier to see, but I took a wrong turn on my way back. The tiny door and hall that leads to the garage was not where I thought it was. Instead, I found a set of stairs, like real stairs, going up. And it smelled like cake, like right out of the oven. I felt so lost and strange, I can't explain it. Except I didn't think the house had a second story. It's too hard to see from the outside. I finally found a way into the kitchen and from there went back to Lenny, who was still asleep. It got really cold after that. When the Ellisons got home, I told them about the bath and the other problems, but I didn't mention the stairs. I told them that I couldn't babysit anymore. I think I used schoolwork as an excuse. They said they understood, but I could tell they were depressed about it. I'm sorry, but I just can't keep doing it. Well, Mrs. Ellison asked me to please just make it for one more night, and then they would move to a new sitter over the weekend to start on Monday. She would pay me in advance for tomorrow. I didn't want to say yes. I don't want to go back. But I felt so bad for leaving them on such a short notice. And really, what if it was just me being a spaz? Like, I'm freaking myself out or something. Anyway, I told Mrs. Ellison yes. One more night. I can do this. I will come back and tell you about the final 5 hours sitting for Lenny in that house. And come Friday, I will talk about new things, like my friends, Dawn or Kim, or how I love Starbucks strawberry cream frappes, or whatever. Just to keep me in the habit of writing on here. I think I've been pretty good about it anyways. I sort of get on and start typing automatically before I go to bed. Okay. I wish I wasn't so scared of going back. I feel so empty. Danielle. October 21st, 2004, 11:41 p.m. No subject. There was a crooked man. and he walked a crooked mile. He found a crooked sixpence upon a crooked stile. He bought a crooked cat who caught a crooked mouse, and they all lived together in a crooked little house. Red Rover, let Jenny come over. October 31st, 2004, 2 p.m. No subject. Found you. Damn. And that was the last post from Danny. Nothing else. The trail goes cold there. Whatever happened to her is unknown. Well, let's continue with the main story. This was definitely adds context. Let me just reread the last one I had that gave context to that. October 22nd, 2004. After trading emails several times with Mr. Paranoia, he sent the link mentioned on on October 17th email. I've already read it, Jen. I want you to treat it as a hoax, unless you got something in the mail from the grocery store in Arizona. Call me when you've read it and we'll talk. It's a live journal site, which means to read it chronologically, you need to scroll to the bottom of the page and work your way up. The journal author is, allegedly, a 16-year-old girl named Danielle Steffens, and we just read that. With another victim, it seems. October 26th, 2004. Jen, please call me back. I know it must be driving you crazy, but do not go to Phoenix. Mark was never there. Despite what the postmark says on the box, the keys are just like the article about Andrew. Bait. Please, please don't do this. Send me the laptop and we'll figure it out together, okay? I wouldn't have put this here if you'd answer your phone. I know you visit this page regularly. Call me. October 26th, 2004. Late. Lots of responses. I didn't expect this. Thank you for your support and your technical notes. At this time, I cannot involve and will not involve anyone else for a number of reasons. Please respect my decision on this matter. I will keep the contact information for the paranormal investigators and I will continue to help those close to Mark as best I can. Please, no more phone calls. Connie is going out of her mind. Thank you. October 27th, 2004. Sandra/Nathan. Check your email. I finally heard back from the Sprint PCS service rep today. No more account authorization hassles. He said their records show and have billed for only 14 messages from Mark's phone on September 21st. The last one is timestamped at 5:11 p.m. He sent me a copy of the logs, but I'm not sure if they'll do us any good at this point. We're waiting the laptop now, and we read those texts earlier. October 28th, 2004. I've been contacted by Diane's M, who says she was friends with Lucy Madison when she lived in Houston. Hello, Eric. A friend linked me to this site asking if this was the same Lucy I knew when I lived in Sugarland. After doing some reading, I'm convinced it is. I had no idea what happened to her after she and John moved. Lucy and I met through a little book club some mutual friends started up. We were both avid readers. Yes, she and John had all sorts of inexplicable problems with their house. I remember seeing some of them firsthand, like the leak. After reading about your friend Mark, I stewed a bit and then called my father. I often talked with Lucy on IMA when she lived here, and thought some of these old dialogues would be of use to you. But they would have been on my old PC, which I gave to my dad about a year ago. I went over earlier tonight and dug through some of the files for any sign of my AMA chats with Lucy way back when. My dad had to remove all this stuff, he deleted things, but I did find one scrap from February in 1999. It's the one I remembered, the one that made me curious to visit. Note, I don't really think it's a supernatural thing. I'm more prone to think Lucy had a sort of nervous breakdown or created or imagined traumatic moments in the house. The rest of it, like your friend's experience, I can't explain. But I hope you find some closure soon. The attachment won't open, but hopefully Diane will try again. Update. I got the chat log and converted it to an HTML. I don't know if Danielle. Oh, for fuck's sake! Sorry, the page just refreshed automatically. Blasted. All right, let me see if I can find where I was. God damn it. Where was I? Where was I? Here we go. I converted it to an HTML. I don't know if Diane is still using her screen name or if Lucin's taken by a new user now. So to protect both from any unwanted IMs, I've removed the numbers from the end of their nicks. If there are users with the nicks in this log, they are not the same people, FYI. Here is the AIN chat log. Well, another rabbit hole. What the hell? Blasted. I think the domain is gone. Blast. Yep, the domain is gone. Maybe it's posted on the page. God damn it. Yeah, the original creepypasta was archived in 2008, and this is from 2004. So, yep. And I don't think I can get the chat log that they create that was for it. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Oh well. Don't get that context. That's unfortunate. October 29th, 2004. Laptop arrived. There's a lot to sort through here. Most notably, some pictures Mark must have downloaded from his camera phone. But his laptop wasn't equipped with Photoshop or any other photo app, so I can't see more than the thumbnails. I'll move them to my hard drive along with recent files and see what I can find. Also, it's crunch time at the office, so I'll be working this weekend, FYI. Maybe we could all use a little bit of a mental break from this. October 31st, 2004. Hooray for automated FTP uploading. If this sees publication, it means I'm still not getting back from my trip, it means I'm still not back from my trip to the never-ending suburban grid in the valley. Consider a precautionary update. When I return, I will remove this link since I can't stand sounding like some sort of martyr, nor do I like to cause panic. In the meantime, in case it could wind up being something important, I've been keeping a personal blog on a remote host. Don't worry about me, Connie. I'm sure I have quite the story to tell. Love, Eric. Alright. October 4th, 2005, nearly a year later. This is Connie. It's been nearly 1 year since Eric drove off and never came back. I don't know how to do HTML. I don't know if this is how Eric did things. I'll be doing good just copy the back page back onto the website. What happened in the year? A lot. Not enough. I don't have any answers. Just a million questions. Let's see. I met Jennifer and Rachel, who was Cam's girlfriend. The three of us keep in touch. Legally, Eric and Mark and Cam are considered missing. That makes some things very hard on us. What else? I have a mountain of files, emails, letters, digital photos that may or may not have anything to do with their disappearance. Every time I start in, I got overwhelmed. So last week I hired someone to go through it all for me to see if anything made sense. The reason I'm finally learning this thing is that he has found one or two pieces to this puzzle, and I feel a responsibility to continue what my husband began. This is a test post. Later this week, after I hear back from Jenny, I will post more information. Ay, ay, ay. Man, it seems like the fly trap found a different way to get him in. October 12th, 2005. Well, for one reason or another, the new information has yet to be verified. So until I hear back from my the source, I can't post the link. Now I get how hard this is. You never know who's on the other end of a modem. Thanks for your patience, all three of you who are still reading. October 14th, 2005. Despite the fact that she's just used her diary to lash out at me, instead of answering me privately, I will link to a live journal by a woman who claims to know about what both Mark and Eric were investigating. Edit. Okay, I'm still figuring out this thing. The blog of Mathers. Hoping this work. Hoping this works. XOX. Oh, and this is the last thing that was ever posted. So, let's see what the blog of Lorraine Mathers has to say. It's another live journal thing, so let's go back to the bottom. It's not very long, so let's read it. August 16th, 2005, 12:40 p.m. You must learn the truth. My name is Lori Mathers, and I don't know much about the internet, and I don't care to. The reason I am in this so-called internet diner in old downtown, I'm not going to tell you what city I live in, thank you kindly, is because there is no record of what I did in October of 2001. Not anymore. I killed a man. Killed him dead. Thing of it was, he was trying to kill me at first. I don't take too kindly to that sort of behavior. At the time, I was in another state from the one in my last known address. A tourist. Never mind. I had all my shit in the back of my station wagon and a revolver in my glove box. To anyone else, I was a visitor from out of town. So was the man I shot to death. He wasn't a local either. See, we both were from Boise. There was a trial, there were lawyers and all that shit, and I would have been happy to serve my time in a cell for what I'd done. One of the safest places for me, considering what I know. The damn lawyer got me on the chair next to the judge, and he asked me why I did what I did, and I told him. I told all of them. I went on for 11 pages in court transcripts, laying out everything I knew about it. And my big mouth got me just 9 months in a mental facility. 9 months. Like my delusion was a pregnancy. And once I had it out of me, I could go free, out among the world. Now I'm out. Been out for a few years. I still carry a gun on me too, and I'm not afraid to kill again if concerned. Maybe I've walked right past you, but I guarantee you didn't pay a cent of attention to me, and that's the way I like it. I wouldn't state it that way. Never go into one of these coffee places with computers hooked up to tables like we're the Jetsons, because anyone who wanted to know the truth just had to read the court transcripts, but it was all there. But they're gone. Disappeared from Boise police. Man named Mark Condry came looking for them, then called me. That's how I know. Used to be you could tap my name into the search engine, things like Wahoo, and my name would get you these news stories about the shooting in Salt Lake City. Now there's nothing. Well, I aim to put a stop to that. I'm gonna tell you what happened, and also what happened to that fella Mark, and a slew of other names you may not recognize. The first thing I can tell you is this. They aren't my houses. Stop thinking of them like houses. As soon as I can panhandle enough money for another hour on this bitch box, I'll go back. Okay. September 20th, 2005, 11:33 p.m. Newtown, St. Lorraine. All it took was one entry on this journal thing, and I had a man in a sweatsuit come tolling around downtown for me. Took me in a good week to make sure I had shaken him loose. Now I'm in a different place, new Jetson's Cafe, and got a new shopping cart from Target down the street. It's a good cart. Got smooth wheels, not pulling left or right, no squeaking. I just need to find a good place to sleep tonight. So, about Boise. I best get to that now before someone finally catches up to me. And now it's really just a matter of time before I'm dragged through the front door of a house that smells like fresh bread and warm blood. But as I said, they aren't houses. Here's what I know and what I said to everyone in the courtroom. It started with little things. This was a week after I moved in. summer before my first semester teaching. The sound traveled in odd ways, especially in the kitchen. No echo, even in empty rooms. Now and then I thought I felt the carpet wiggle under my feet. The outlet things, they felt, I don't know how to put it. I guess soft is the word. Like I was jamming the plug into a jar of jelly. Power fluttered a lot. But damned if I could find a fuse box. Thermostat didn't seem to care how I fussed with that. The air just came on when it wanted to. And most of the time, it was warm and sounded like cinnamon toast. All this feels par for the course when you buy a home at the auction. I got in on one of those deals where the bank offloads all the real estate they claim from defaulted loans or some shit. You get what you pay for? Not this time. Not even close. I tried getting into the attic, to see if there was anything like a fuse box there. I searched all up and down the house for the trap door to the crawl space. No sign of it anywhere. So I did what any self-respecting middle-aged woman would do. I went out and bought an axe. As soon as I jammed that axe into the hall ceiling, it all started to go to hell. Shit. Internet cafe shooing me off. Be back when I can. October 4th, 2005, 8:21 p.m. Continue from last entry. Let's try this again. Last two times I got on here, I was halfway typing through a new entry when I got kicked out for smelling bad. But late last night, I snuck into a condo, took a bath on the rooftop pool, and changed to flesh clothes I bought at the thrift store. Going back to it, the house bled. Not like human blood, but something else. I got in my eyes when I chucked that axe into the ceiling, went into the kitchen and wiped my eyes with a towel, and when I went back into the hall, the trap door had suddenly opened up from the ceiling, and instead of steps or stairs extending to the floor, like I had a whole second level or something. I couldn't see past the threshold, not because of the angle, but because it was so damn dark. At first I thought it was something black and it was just a large blocking the way up, but it wasn't an object. The smell was the most bizarre. A thick, heavy scent of sweets and baked goods that was trying desperately to drown out the stench of rotting meat. It made me queasy. And I wanted to go up there. No, that's not entirely true. I didn't want to go, but at the same time, I had this urge to step up the stairs, like that's what happened next. I needed to keep going, maybe just poke my head in and take a look around in the dark. I started arguing with myself about it, and by the time I finally listened to the screaming in my head, I was already 2 steps off the floor. I turned and ran fast as I could out the front door. The whole house was making these weird noises overhead, and the walls cracked like I was in an old clipper ship out at sea. The knob on the door wouldn't turn. My hands were all sweaty by now. I tried ticking at the goddamn thing, but there was no use. The door wouldn't open. Behind me, I heard this loud sound like a chorus of fat men sucking on their teeth. It came from somewhere in the middle of the house. I wasn't going to try and get past the stairs to get to the sliding door in the back. I was out the front door, not at all. I grabbed a chair from the little dining area and bashed it against the picture window that looked out to the front yard. Let me tell you, I swung that thing like the bases were loaded. I am no whip. I once took a guy a full foot taller than me outside a bar. That was back when I was a little tipsy. But damned if that window didn't break. Here's what it did. It stretched, like it was made of see-through skin. The chair bounced back and cracked me in the skull, hard, and I was bleeding from my scalp. A real gusher. The carpet in the living room started swaying like it was the grass in the breeze, and the smell started filling up the front half of the house, making me wonder why I didn't walk up the stairs in the first place, making me think the best bet now was to go up and see if there was a way out from the attic. It took some miracle for me to find my way to the kitchen with a bloody face, hands scrambling for a towel again. That's when what I found was a bread knife, those serrated ones with the fork end. I made like I was going back to the living room, then dove at the window again, screaming like a banshee, and I fell right into the porch outside. It was like the window just opened up ahead of me. The knife was Moses and the glass was just the fucking Red Sea. That's how I remember it. Stone cold truth. But really the trick was when I found out. It was when I went back 2 days later. October 11th, 2005, 10:46 a.m. Formulas. Vomit notes. If body fresh, eaten by house less than 12 hours, equals strings attached. If body cooked, inside mouth more than 24 hours, no strings visible. If body stale, too long, unknown, time inside the mouth equals bones. Physical strings equals small range, just within the house, can't go outside, very fast movement. No strings, able to go outside and perform basic tasks. Slower, uses rage, uses a lure or bait. Bones, digestion fluid for too long, or house gets hungry. Warning signs, open sore on neck of nape. Last string disconnects from here. Repeats phrases, unusually strong or weak. Connection theory, potentially all the same house. TS anomaly, multidimensional, beyond human understanding. October 13th, 2005, 10:55 a.m. For Connie. Well, I was gonna pick up where I left last week, but I had to wade through 4 email from some woman before I could get here. I don't have time to respond to all of them. This bitch box cost me money. Money I'd be spending on booze or coffee. My lifeblood. Look, Connie, or whoever you are. I don't give a shit if you believe me or not. It's not my mission to validate my existence for you and your little project. Yes, I did talk with Mark Condry. I'm getting to that. As for proof or whatever you're looking to get from me, did you not read the bottom entry here? The proof is gone. I can't even prove I'm a resident in Idaho anymore. Either you believe me or you don't. Put up a link if you want to. Get the word out. Let people decide for themselves. No way in hell am I gonna meet you somewhere. I didn't survive this long by being stupid. If you want, I can scribe mark for you. I can do that much. I'll send you that my way. I'll send you that your way. As for my last entry, with the formulas, I just wanted to get that written down before I forgot. I'll talk about them more later. Some of it is speculation. Some of it I've seen with my own eyes. I'm not playing tic-tac-toe, so none of this exo shit. January 17th, 2006, 11:46 p.m. I'm back. 3 months and 5 states later. 5 states later. I got news, kiddies, so sit down and hear me out. Okay, first off, about what I was saying earlier. Before that woman contacted me and I suddenly got popular, I mean, about my house, that was my house. Maybe that's just how Americans operate, but once I put a payment on anything, that suck is mine. So after 2 days, I done came up with a few conclusions, the first of which I didn't really see what I thought I saw was a monoxide leak, or I got slosh and had some episode. 2 days in a motel was plenty for me to work up some courage and go back. Somebody was living in my house. In my house. Two somebodies turned out. Twin brothers. My stuff was there. At least the furniture I could see through the windows, but they were living it up like nothing was wrong. The window I thought was busted through was replaced and everything looked almost normal. But damn if you just don't know what to do when you come home and find two strangers living in your house. I wasn't even bothered that they could be out to kill me or something. You know what worried me? They were going through my stuff, putting their grubby paws over my CDs, my underwear, sleeping under my covers, damn it. I would have stayed outside, just watching them move around like shadows behind the drapes, but then this next set of blackbirds made a racket flying outside of that little elm tree in the front yard, and I see those twins at the window staring at me. Then the front door opened like someone was inviting me inside, but no one was there. And something in the Lorraine brain said, no monoxide leak, no drunken nightmare. Move your ass. So I listened, and I bailed. Left my CDs and my clothes and my fucking house behind. A few months later, one of them brothers found me in Utah, and I had to kill him dead. Now that I got some of that out of the way, I need to tell you some important information. Enough with the history. I'm your secret agent, out in the field, getting you the files you need to stay alive. Theory? Somebody had to start building these things, right? I started snooping around, and here's what I found out. Get your pencils out. Near as I can tell, the original designer of the floor plans was a man named Jared Lewis. He tore down his old house in Topeka and built a new one on the foundation. Family left him at some point in the process. Okay, but there's more to this. Lewis was an old student or disciple or some nut named Jack Parsons. Man, oh man, is there a lot of background on Parsons. Too much to go into here. But this Lewis guy went home after building a project like he was some land-based Noah. So I'm still collecting information on this Jared Lewis and his little group of followers. I should have also put down some goodies like an actual floor plan or maybe some photos of the house, assuming I got the courage to visit one in the city where I'm squatting now. Damn, gotta go. Talk more later. And that was her last entry. How interesting. That's all that there is for Lorraine Mathers. And apparently, that seems to be the end of the Dionia house. It looks like there's a lot of things left unsolved. How fascinating. How very, very fascinating. Well, that went on a little bit longer than I expected, but that was a very intriguing story, and I'm sure there's more that you could definitely search into that. Some things might be lost to time, or some things might just be abandoned because the story is over 20 years old at this point, or probably exactly 20 years old. But looks like that's where we will call it here for the night. Looks like things worked out. I got plenty of material. 2.5 hours, that's more than enough time for me. But yes, I'll be calling it here. So, if any of you are tuning into this in the future, maybe just having some kind of stuff to listen to while you fall asleep, much appreciated. But this is going to be Valley Song. Oh, one more thing. So, I don't think I may or may not be streaming tomorrow. I don't know. But I think there's a good chance I'll be able to stream on Sunday or Monday, either or. But I'll probably be able to stream this coming Tuesday or Wednesday, because I have time off work for that. As I mentioned before, I'll see if I can get an actual schedule up that y'all have as reference. Still working on all the details, but I'm working on it. But yes, again, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening to me do some reading. I'm not the most skilled at it, but I enjoy doing it. But this will be what we call it. So, this has been Valley Song, and I'll be signing out. Have a damn good one, y'all, and take care. Ciao,